Commander Varek of the Kethrian Imperial Fleet had conquered 47 worlds. He had subjugated species that breathed methane, creatures that communicated through bioluminescence, and civilizations that had mastered quantum entanglement before they'd invented the wheel. In his 3 centuries of service, he had never met a species he could not break, until he met the humans. The capture had been laughably simple. The human colony on Epsilon Tertius was small, barely 200 souls scratching out an existence on a mineral-rich moon. When Varek's warship descended through the atmosphere, the colonists had no weapons capable of piercing his shields, no technology that could match his arsenal. Within an hour, they had surrendered. Varek had ordered the adults separated from their young, standard protocol for processing new labor acquisitions. The adult humans would be evaluated, categorized, and distributed throughout the Empire's mining operations. The young ones, the cubs as the humans called them, would be raised in imperial creches, their minds molded into proper servants of the Kethrian throne. There were 32 human cubs in total, ranging from what Varek's xenobiologists estimated to be 4 to 16 solar cycles old. They had been herded into Holding Bay 7, a reinforced chamber designed to contain the most violent of subjugated species. The walls were composed of duranium alloy, capable of withstanding plasma fire and kinetic impacts that would shatter a starship's hull. The door, once sealed, required a command override from the bridge to unlock. Varek watched through the observation window as his soldiers began the final sweep, ensuring all cubs were accounted for. One child in particular caught his attention, a female cub, perhaps 12 cycles old, with hair the color of stellar fire and eyes that burned with defiance. According to the manifest, her designation was Rin. That one, Varek said to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Zara. She will require conditioning. I see rebellion in her eyes. Zara's chitinous faceplates clicked in agreement. Shall I have her sedated, Commander? No. Let her rage. It will make the breaking more satisfying. Varek turned away from the window, satisfied with the day's work. The door to Holding Bay 7 began to slide shut, its massive locks preparing to engage it. He made it 3 steps down the corridor before the explosion. The sound was unlike anything Varek had heard before. Not the clean detonation of plasma charges or the screaming tear of a hull breach, but a primal, thunderous roar of metal being torn apart by raw force. The ship shuddered. Alarms shrieked. And through it all, Varek heard something that made his blood freeze in his veins. Laughter. Children's laughter. He ran back to the observation window. The door to Holding Bay 7 hung twisted and mangled, ripped from its housing. The duranium walls showed massive dents, as if something impossibly strong had struck them from within. And in the center of the destruction stood the cubs. They had formed a pyramid, the oldest and largest at the bottom, bracing themselves against the floor with their backs to the wall. The middle-sized cub stood on their shoulders. And at the top, her hair wild and her face split in a feral grin, stood Ryn in her hands. She held a piece of the door's locking mechanism, twisted like clay. Impossible, Varek breathed. The structural integrity readings, those walls could withstand a heavy assault mech. Commander, a technician's voice crackled over his communicator. We're detecting massive biometric spikes from the human juveniles. Their muscle density is increasing exponentially. Adrenaline production is off our charts. Their bone structure is reinforcing itself in real time. Sir, whatever their physiology does under stress, it's nothing like what we observed in the adults. The cubs were moving now, flowing through the broken doorway like a river of defiance. They didn't run in panic. They moved with purpose, with coordination that shouldn't have been possible for creatures so young. The older ones protected the younger. The stronger ones carried those too small to keep pace, and Rin led them, her voice rising clear and strong. When they separated us from our parents, they made a mistake. They thought we were weak. They thought we were helpless. She pointed at Varek through the observation window, and their eyes met. They forgot that human children are made of the same stuff as human adults. We're just smaller, and we haven't learned to be afraid yet. Varek slammed his hand on the communicator. Security teams, converge on Holding Bay 7. Subdue the escaped prisoners. But the cubs were already spreading through the ship like wildfire. They crawled through ventilation shafts too small for Kethrian soldiers. They worked together to override door controls, the oldest cubs somehow understanding the ship's systems through pure observation and terrifying intelligence. When cornered, they fought with a ferocity that left seasoned warriors stumbling back in shock, small fists and feet striking with precision at weak points in armor, teeth biting through synthetic materials, fingernails raking across sensor arrays. They weren't trying to kill. They were trying to escape. But their desperation made them more dangerous than any trained soldier that I in the chaos. Rin found the communications array. Her hands flew over controls she shouldn't have understood, and moments later, her voice echoed through every speaker on the ship. Mom, Dad, anyone. This is Rin Castellan of Epsilon Tertius Colony. If you can hear this, we're on a Kethrian warship in orbit. We're coming for you. Hold on. Then she turned to the other cubs gathered around her, their faces dirty and defiant and utterly unbroken. They wanted to cage us, she said. They wanted to make us forget who we are. But we're humans, and humans don't stay caged. When Varek's reinforcements finally cornered the cubs in the shuttle bay, they found 32 children standing in front of a commandeered transport, ready to launch. Rin stood at the front, arms spread wide, protecting the younger ones behind her. Stand down, Varek commanded, his weapon raised but his hand trembling. You cannot win this. Rin smiled, and in that smile, Varek saw the future of his empire crumbling. We already did, she said. You wanted to break us before you could lock us away. But you got it backwards, Commander. The cage broke first. The shuttle launched, tearing through the hangar bay doors with the cubs inside. And as Varek watched them disappear into the stars, he understood with terrible clarity what his xenobiologists would later confirm. Human juveniles, when threatened, when separated from their protectors, didn't become weaker, they became dangerous. He had conquered 47 worlds. But he would never conquer humanity, because you cannot cage something that breaks through the bars with their bare hands and laughter in their hearts.